Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to, I think I might call this the Fundamentally One Show. We'll see. Tonight, I'm going to debate ChatGPT again, and we're going to debate, is Trump a good leader? I do not think he's a good leader, and I'm going to debate a version of ChatGPT that thinks he is. So just 1 second while I get everything set up here. Just bear with me. If you're watching the replay, you can probably skip ahead a few minutes here because I'm just going to be actually figuring something out because this stream that I just set up in my group isn't starting, so I think I got to refresh it. I got to get the title. There we go. Now it's showing up. I got to turn that off. Yeah, when I start the stream in this community, it shares my audio at the same time, so it just like it's like me talking over myself. Okay. Yep. Okay. We're good. Okay, let me just get my chats open here so I can check if anybody's talking to me. Like I said, if you're watching the replay, you can skip ahead a little bit, probably to like minute 3 here is when the action's going to start. Gotta go to Facebook, gotta go to YouTube. There we go. We're getting used to this. I don't go live a lot, guys. Not enough, apparently. We're going to go live every day, though. Or maybe almost every day. Okay. There we go. I might be a little bit laggy on getting to your comments. Just fair warning. If I even do get to them, we'll see if I have time. Okay. Stage. There we go. Okay, we're just going to kick this off right away. We're at about minute 3. There we go. Okay. Oh, I didn't set this up. Hold on. I don't need to do anything, though. I got it. Okay, for our debate today, the topic is going to be, well, actually, my claim is going to be Trump is a bad leader. Your role is going to be the typical MAGA Republican. And let's keep difficulty easy again, just like last time. We're still getting used to this stuff. I'm still a terrible debater. So we'll just take it easy on ourselves. And the goal will be to figure out if Trump is actually a good or bad leader, depending on the definition that we agree upon. I'm going to probably have to tell it to use shorter responses. I'm not going to make it read super long responses, though, if they get paragraphy. Yeah, this is a little bit paragraphy. Okay, so I'm just actually going to read this myself. So it sounds good. I'll keep this easy. Stay in the typical. Okay, he's telling us his role. You can read that yourself. I'll start by pushing for a definition from my side. I'll define a good political leader as someone who puts their country's interests first, keeps major promises to their voters. Okay, good. Projects strength to enemies and allies, improves the economy or quality of life. 5 is willing to fight corrupt institutions instead of just protecting the system. So under that definition, I'd argue Trump was a good leader because he put America first, challenged the political establishment and fought for stronger borders. Okay, I kind of get you. I'm going to offer a counter definition to this because I don't think that somebody putting their country's interests, like these are very specific roles to a president. And I'm just saying he's not a good leader in general. So these are not general leadership qualities that you've defined 1 through 5. These are presidential qualities. We could argue based on, Trump is a good president, but I think that's a separate debate. I'm going to keep this to Trump is a bad leader. And the definition that I like to go by of leadership is John Maxwell's definition. I go by his 5 levels of leadership. Number 1 being position, and then permission, and then production, and then people development, number 4, and then pinnacle is number 5. And by this definition, leadership would be defined by a leader's ability to ascend through the 5 levels with as many people as he possibly can, creating a relationship as soon as possible with as many people as he can, putting people into production together for an overall goal, and then building stronger leaders himself. And I would argue that Trump has not done these things. Though I do respect your definition, and maybe we can have that debate next time. Can I add to this? Oh, it's probably too late. I forgot to tell it to give me shorter responses. It's probably my fault too. Like if I'm giving long responses, it's going to give long responses. Fair, I'll accept that definition, but I'm going to challenge your application of it. Under Maxwell's model, yes, Trump clearly has level 1 position. He became president, so he had formal authority. But I don't think you can say he failed at level 2 permission just because a lot of people dislike him. Maxwell's level 2 is about people following because they want to, not because they have to. Trump has millions of people who voluntarily follow him to defend him. And then number 3, production. His supporters would argue that he produced results that they cared about. Border enforcement. Okay, we'll definitely get into that. Let's see. My counter argument would be this: Trump may not be level 4 or level 5 leader, but a president can't reach level 4. That's pretty embarrassing. But that doesn't automatically make him a bad leader. It may mean he's a limited leader, very strong at mobilizing followers and producing movement energy, weaker at developing others and creating unity. So I'd ask you this: does someone have to reach level 4 or 5 to be considered a good leader? Or does someone have to be considered a good leader if they strongly achieve level 2 or 3? Maybe we don't even have to get into the specifics of this. Let me answer your question with a question. If you're going to choose a restaurant, would you choose a 3-star restaurant or a 4 or 5-star restaurant? Improve less than you think. 3 stars is not necessarily bad. Okay, fair. Yeah, Trump is an okay leader. Okay, so we're at Trump is an okay leader. Not a good start, ChatGPT. Are you arguing low tier leader? Okay, this isn't a good start. I don't think most MAGA Republicans would arrive at Trump is just an okay leader. Maybe they would at this point. I'm actually not sure. But let's do our best as we go forward to keep our responses concise. It looks like your response here was a little bit shorter, but let's keep them as concise as possible. I would argue that with most of America and actually most of the world, Trump is at a level 1 level leader. I don't think that anybody that he's at level 2 with stays at level 2. I think he's either at level 1 with everybody or he's at level 3, which is people just love to follow him or they don't want to follow him at all. Okay, I think we can start getting it to read its own responses at this point. Fair correction, I'll keep it tighter. From the MAGA side, I'm just going to do this.
Fair correction. I'll keep it tighter. From the MAGA side, I'd say Trump being polarizing doesn't mean he's level 1. It means he has deep level 2 and 3 leadership with his people and near zero permission with opponents. Most leaders don't have permission with everyone. They have permission with the people who share their vision. And with Trump's base, he clearly does. They don't follow him because they have to. They follow him because they believe he fights for them. So I'd ask, does Maxwell's model require broad permission across most people, or can strong permission with a committed movement still count as real leadership?
A leader can be at different levels with different individuals. So my argument was just that he's only at level one with most individuals, especially within our country, and if you count around the world, I would too. But I think we might have to dip into specific roles of the president at this point. Um, I think one of the things that you mentioned was promises kept. So I will just bring up he campaigned no new wars, and then he started a war with Iran. He also campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. He's been fighting that tooth and nail from happening. Um, he promised lower grocery prices, lower gas prices. Those aren't happening. He promised to end the Ukraine war on day one. That didn't happen. So I'm not sure. I'm sure there are some promises he did keep, like pardoning the J6 rioters. But maybe you can tell me like what you think based on those things that I just told you. What actually outweighs the points that I just brought up, in your opinion?
Good pivot. Since you brought in current factual claims, I'm going to keep the debate role but avoid pretending disputed or fast-moving details are settled without checking them. From the MAGA side, I'd answer, some of those are fair hits, especially Ukraine Day 1. That promise was overconfident. But what outweighs it is this. Trump's supporters judge him less by perfect promise-keeping and more by direction. They'd say, he's still tougher on Iran than Biden-style diplomacy. He's still pushing gas prices down. He still changed the courts. He still cracked down on the border. He still fights the establishment his voters distrust. So my defense is not Trump kept every promise. It's Trump keeps enough core promises, fights the right enemies, and produces enough wins for his base that they still see him as a strong leader. Your strongest point is that this may make him a good faction leader, not a good national leader.
Yeah, and I don't think somebody being a good faction leader makes somebody a good leader in general. I believe that somebody who leads a faction or a group can also lead those people to cooperate and collaborate with other factions or groups and not see them as lesser or opponents, not in a violent sense, at least. And it seems like Trump doesn't. Trump likes to use sort of violent language towards his opponents. But I noticed you didn't address kind of the worst points that I brought up, like the Epstein files. What about that? He promised to release them, and he's been fighting every single day to keep from releasing them. And then the no new wars. He started his own war with Iran, and I would argue that that is not pushing gas prices down; it's driving them up.
On Epstein, from the MAGA side, I'd say that's a real weakness. If he promised transparency, then fighting release looks bad. I'd probably argue national security, privacy, victims, legal process. But politically, yeah, that undercuts trust. On Iran, I'd push back harder. MAGA voters may say Trump didn't start a war. He responded to Iran, used force, then tried to de-escalate. But I admit it hurts the no new wars brand. So your strongest case is Trump promises transparency and peace, then acts like a normal establishment president when power is on the line. That's a hard charge to answer.
I would argue that there was no reason to start that war, and that he made up a reason. because they already supposedly eliminated the threat. Because okay, so getting into details, we supposedly eliminated the nuclear threat last year, right? And the JCPOA had Iran limited to like 3.67% enrichment of uranium. And because Trump has pulled us out of the JCPOA, Iran has been able to enrich up to 60%. So they're actually closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before the war started, which was the entire reason he said we went to war. And the focus on the Strait of Hormuz tells me that he's not necessarily focused on eliminating their nuclear threat. He's focused on controlling the oil. So I would say that he's a bad leader because he's self-interested and he's not interested in the American people. He even got on camera in front of public and said, "I'm not at all interested in the financial situation of the American people."
That's a strong argument structure. You're connecting policy choices to leadership character, not just listing broken
I need you
promises.
to stop analyzing my
I'll keep my
arguments.
response concise, but I'm going to ground the factual pieces carefully. MAGA response, I'd push back on he started it for oil. That's motive reading. You'd need evidence, not just suspicion. But your nuclear argument is strong. Trump left the JCPOA. Iran later enriched far beyond the deal's 3.67% cap. And now he's using the danger he helped create as justification for war. That's a serious leadership failure. On the not interested in Americans' financial situation quote, that hurts him badly. PBS reported he said he doesn't think about Americans' financial situation when negotiating with Iran. So my MAGA defense would be narrow. Preventing a nuclear Iran matters more than short-term costs. But honestly, your counter is stronger. A leader should not create instability, ignore public hardship, then claim only he can fix the crisis.
You can refrain from analyzing my arguments as we go through the conversation. We'll just save the analyzing for the end and you can just play the role. So it sounds like you're kind of conceding. Is that true? Are we conceding that Trump is a bad leader? Okay.
No, I'm not conceding that Trump is a bad leader overall. I'm conceding that those are weak points. My position would be Trump is not a polished, unity building Maxwell level 5 leader. I'll give you that. But he is still a strong leader because he has massive permission and production with the people who actually chose to follow him. He gives them direction, courage, identity, and a political movement.
Mm.
You're judging him as a national unifier. I'm judging him as someone who fights for the people who elected him.
Mm.
So I'd say bad unifier? Maybe. Bad establishment president? Definitely. Bad leader? No. A leader doesn't have to make everyone like him. He has to move people toward a vision. Trump clearly does that.
Okay. So it sounds like we can agree that Trump is a good leader for specifically the people that support him. And then there are examples like Marjorie Taylor Greene, where if you stop supporting him, you will immediately lose Trump's all of his good graces and his support. And then he's a bad leader for the people who do not support him, right? And so in that case, and like Thomas Massey and people like that who have sort of defected. So is that where we're at? You just didn't I say that last time? Yeah, I did.
Got it. I'll stay in role and save analysis for the end. Since you named specific current political relationships, I'll keep the factual framing careful, but the debate response short. Not quite. I'd say Trump is a great leader for people aligned with his vision and a bad leader for people who want compromise, coalition building, or
That's pretty much
independence
what I
movement.
said.
With Green, Massey, and others, my defense would be if they stop backing the America First agenda, Trump has every right to oppose them. But your counter is fair. If loyalty to Trump matters more than loyalty to principle, then that looks less like leadership and more like control. So I'd frame my position this way: Trump is a movement leader, not a consensus leader. And I don't think that makes him bad. It makes him the kind of leader needed when the country is divided.
I have to correct you on Marjorie Taylor Greene. The only reason that Trump opposed her was because she voted against him on the Epstein files. That's the only reason. She was voting with Trump on pretty much every single, I think it was every single issue. She was like one of his closest supporters and voted pretty much exactly how he wanted her to until that moment. And then he called her a traitor. So I just want to correct that one. I got that right?
Fair correction. Then my MAGA defense gets weaker there. I'd still say Trump is allowed to punish political betrayal. But if Green was loyal on nearly everything and only broke with him over the Epstein files, then calling her a traitor looks personal, not principled. Green herself said Trump called her a traitor for pushing release of the Epstein files, and reports at the time tied his attacks to her support for the release effort. So in role, I'd say, Trump demands loyalty because the movement is under attack. But honestly, that sounds more like control than leadership if the disagreement is transparency over Epstein.
Yeah, so maybe at this point I have to adjust my original claim because it's hard to prove that Trump is just generally a bad leader because there's some people that feel that he's a good leader and do get to at least level 3 with him. I'll give him, the 3 stars out of 5. But I think the main point here is that if I'm going to adjust my claim, it's going to be that Trump is bad for America. He's a bad leader for America. Because my definition of a good leader for America or as president would be somebody that would include somebody who unites the people. So I've not really ever seen Trump say anything on TV or in the public or on his social media that says like, hey, let's work with the Democrats. Let's figure out how to agree with the Democrats on this or come to some kind of resolution and figure out some kind of mutual agreement, right? So I've not seen that kind of language from him. So from that perspective, I would argue that he's not interested in America's interests as a whole. He's just interested in a section of America that I would say blindly supports him. Go ahead and push back.
That's a better claim. But I'd still push back. From my side, Trump is not trying to unite with Democrats because he believes the Democratic agenda is bad for America. A leader doesn't always unite by compromising with the opposition. Sometimes a leader unites by drawing a clear line and saying, this is the direction we're going. You're defining good for America as bringing both sides together. I'd define good for America as protecting the country from policies that weaken it. So if Trump refuses to work with
Can I
Democrats,
stop it?
MAGA voters don't see that as failure. They
Oh,
see
yeah.
it as backbone. My question back: is unity always good leadership if one side believes the other side is leading the country in the wrong direction?
No, to answer your question, that's a simple no. But I need to correct this position here. I was not saying that that's the only quality of a good leader for America is to unite people. I was saying that's a core quality. But since you want to bring up is good for America, we can get into that if you think that that's worth it with Trump. Oh boy. Okay, actually, let's have it just read it.
Yes, I think it's worth getting into. From the MAGA side, I'd say Trump is good for America because he prioritizes border security, American jobs, energy independence, lower taxes, military strength, less globalism, less trust in corrupt institutions. And I'd argue unity is good, but not if it means surrendering to policies we think are damaging. So my position would be Trump is good for America because he fights for the America First agenda, even if that makes him divisive. Your move would be to show that the agenda itself, or the way he fights for it, causes more damage than benefit.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I'll go through each of these points that you brought up. I might skip one or two here. So border security, yes, the borders is more secure based on results, but he didn't. I believe he did not actually implement any policy to secure the border. He just gave ICE more money, and because of how immigrants have been treated in this country, I believe nobody wants to enter it anymore. I don't think there's actually increased at the border, but you can find sources if you'd like and correct me on that. As far as American jobs, there's actually less jobs now because we've been deporting so many immigrants. Jobs have been going down. So, sure, yeah, he said he wanted to prioritize that, but that's not what's been happening. Um, Energy independence. Is it more independent to have to rely on other countries for oil? So like we took Venezuela, right? We just kind of went in there without approval of Congress and just removed the leader and then left the same regime in charge. But that's not really the point. So Trump has been like kind of trying to get a grip on the world's oil, which to me seems very dependent on other nations and other places. Like we have to depend on control over Venezuela. We have to depend on control over the Strait of Hormuz if we got that, which we didn't. So that does not seem energy independent to me. What seems more energy independent to me is what China is doing and creating more renewable energy. And they're actually able to sell that energy to other countries and make a profit off of it because they're making more than they need in certain areas, right? And then lower taxes. I believe the taxes have actually increased for the lower and middle class because of the tariffs. If you include how much more the American people have paid in tariffs, and actually they redistributed that wealth to the corporation owners, not back to the people, we have actually paid more in taxes. I'm pretty sure. As far as military strength, sure, I'm sure that's true. I don't really personally care about having a lot more military strength. It's been at the detriment of science and education. So I would just argue that we don't really need that. Less globalism. I know that MAGA wants this, so I'm not really going to argue that. There's not really a point. And then less trust in corrupt institutions. I'm not going to give like a argument that I think that we should get deep into on this, but I personally believe Trump is the corrupt institution. So that's just not really a point that I would personally bring up. That's literally not border security.
I'll stay in role, but I'm going to verify the current policy claims before answering so I don't accidentally roleplay made up facts. I'd answer it this way. On border security, you're underselling it. Policy absolutely changed. More detention, more deportation, fewer releases, tougher asylum rules. That is border security, not just people got scared. DHS says there have been 13 straight months of zero border releases. On jobs, I'd push back. Immigrants leaving can hurt some sectors, yes, but MAGA would argue the point is to raise wages and reduce illegal labor competition. Whether that works long term is debatable. Some economists say mass deportations can hurt US-born workers too. On energy, the US is still a major energy producer and exporter. Reuters recently reported the US became the world's top oil exporter. So I don't buy that Trump is making us dependent just because he cares about global oil choke points. On tariffs, that's your strongest economic point. Tariffs are basically a tax, and analyses say households are paying more. Tax Foundation estimated the 2026 tariffs equal about a $700 average tax increase per household. So my MAGA position, Trump's agenda has costs, but he's prioritizing sovereignty, borders, energy, and national strength over cheap consumer prices and global cooperation. That may be harsh, but it doesn't make him bad for America. It means he has different priorities.
That's not border security. That's policy about the immigration process, not specifically the border. Um, so I'm not sure how you're connecting that to people not entering the country at all. For instance, he made it so that it's harder to apply for a green card now. You actually have to apply from outside the country, which is not a border security thing at all. It doesn't happen at the border. It happens within the legal system. So, and then I would also argue that less immigration is actually bad for America in a lot of ways. It hurts our economy. It hurts our diversity. Immigration was pretty much built America because of the different cultures that came together. And then, I mean, we can go into economics of it, but you could probably look up a couple quick studies because you're ChatGPT and just find that the more immigration that we've had, the more our economy has grown. On jobs, I don't know too much about the specifics of that, so I'm just going to skip that point. As far as energy, why do you think that controlling choke points around the world doesn't make us dependent? It absolutely makes us dependent on controlling those choke points. And then it's expensive for us to keep military control over there because those countries don't want us to keep those choke points. Obviously, they want to have them themselves. That belongs to their land, right? So I would just argue, I'm not sure how you think that's not being dependent. Obviously, renewable energy is much more independent. It's a clear winner because a single family can put solar panels in their house and be independent from the entire world. They can be off the grid, right? And then on tariffs, yeah, I'll just take the concession. Thanks. Let's check chat while we're doing this. Okay, cool.
I'll answer and roll, and keep it focused on your 3 live points: border versus immigration policy, energy independence, and tariffs. MAGA response.
I skipped tariffs.
On the border, I disagree. Asylum and entry rules absolutely affect border security because they change the incentive to show up at the border.
That's what I said.
If people believe they'll be released inside the US, more come. If they believe they'll be denied or detained, fewer come. On immigration overall, I agree immigration can grow the economy. Even CBO said higher immigration can increase federal revenues and lower deficits. But MAGA's argument is not zero immigration, it's controlled immigration. On energy, I'll give you that, renewables can increase independence. The IEA says renewables reduce fuel import needs and improve supply security, but MAGA would say solar panels don't replace oil overnight. Until then, controlling supply chains and choke points is part of national security. And yes, on tariffs, I'm not fighting you much there. Tariffs raise consumer costs. MAGA just thinks the trade-off is worth it.
Based on how ICE has been deporting people, I would say that it probably is zero immigration. They have talked about removing people's green cards and deporting them, like people who have already immigrated here. Trump specifically campaigned on removing violent criminal immigrants, and I think 90% or something like that has not been has not had any criminal record at all. So they don't seem to have any discretion when they're rounding people up. They just seem to be rounding people up. So that to me, like they can say what they want, but based on what they're doing, that just doesn't seem like what they're doing. And then as far as the energy goes, I think you're misrepresenting MAGA's argument. I think MAGA believes that renewables are not worth it at all. I think that they believe the whole green movement is propaganda. Let me see if I'm getting this correctly. They think climate change is not real, right? And so the whole go green movement is just propaganda for renewable energy companies to make money. I think if I have that right, that's actually the MAGA position. Generally, from what I've heard, maybe that's just the conspiracy theorists that pop out of the woodwork. But if if you're just going to take the position that solar panels don't replace oil overnight, okay. But why aren't we investing in them? Why are we investing so much money in a war, which costs way more money than solar panels? I would argue that we could have built all the solar panels we need with the money that we spent on this war. So why are we focusing on that instead of renewable sources and then eventually selling it to other countries like China is and becoming rich? I get that right? Think.
I'd push back in two places. First, MAGA would say it's not zero immigration. It's removing people who broke immigration law and forcing future immigration to happen legally. But I'll admit your point has weight. If ICE is detaining lots of people with no criminal conviction, then it undercuts the only violent criminals framing. Track reported that as of April 2026, about 70.8% of people in ICE detention had no criminal conviction. Second, on energy, you're right that the current Trump MAGA position is mostly hostile to wind and solar.
Yeah, they think it
Reuters
causes
reported today
cancer.
that Trump-era permit delays threaten $121 billion in wind and solar investment. So my defense would be, MAGA doesn't trust renewables to carry the grid yet. They see oil, gas, and nuclear as more reliable. But your counter is strong. If energy independence is the goal, then blocking domestic renewable growth, while spending money to control foreign oil routes, looks inconsistent.
Great. Okay. So at this point, is there anything that would get you to concede that Trump is a bad leader for America as a whole? Three things clearly. Okay.
Yes, I'd concede Trump is a bad leader for America as a whole if you establish three things clearly. 1. His leadership mostly benefits loyalists, not the country broadly. 2. His policies create measurable harm that outweighs the benefits. Higher costs, weaker institutions, worse global stability, damaged economy, etc. 3. He punishes dissent even from his own side when they act on principle, which means he builds loyalty to himself more than leadership for America. You've already made progress on all three. From the MAGA side, my remaining defense is Trump is harsh, divisive, and imperfect, but necessary because the system is corrupt and America First policies are better than establishment policies. So to beat that, you need to show, even if the system has problems, Trump's solution makes America weaker, more divided, and less free.
This seems kind of wishy washy. Is there something specific and something I could clearly define or prove that would prove to you that Trump is a bad leader for America? Because like I could prove that he's a convicted criminal. I could prove that he's an adjudicated rapist, that we don't want the type of person like that running our country. It sets a bad example to have a criminal running the country, something like that. Give me something to something specific to prove here for you, if it's possible.
Fair. Here's the clearest standard I'd accept in roll. Prove that Trump's leadership requires personal loyalty over constitutional duty. That would prove he is a bad leader for America because the president is supposed to serve the country, not make the country serve him. So the specific burden would be show that when Trump has to choose between America's interests and his own power, reputation, or protection, he consistently chooses himself. Examples that would count. He punishes allies for seeking transparency, like the Epstein files.
Yeah, we showed that.
He pressures officials to serve his desired outcome instead of the law. He attacks courts, elections, media, or Congress when they limit him. He demands loyalty to himself more than loyalty to the Constitution. He uses government power against enemies or to protect friends. If you can prove that pattern, I'd concede. Trump may be effective for a faction, but he is a bad leader for America as a constitutional republic. That's probably the cleanest path.
Okay, I can give you a few examples. I'm pretty sure he did all of these things that you mentioned on January 6th. He sent false states of electors to try to steal the election. He's claimed election fraud in 2020, even though I think it was like 60 plus court cases have been thrown out because there actually hasn't been any. He has turned on people consistently who vote against him on the Epstein files. I would just argue that the entire Epstein file thing as a whole is in his own self-interest and not in the country's interest. I had more, but we'll start with that. Oh, actually, you know what? I do have more. Oh, does this start from the beginning? I'm going to copy this just in case. Another thing that I would mention is that he's posted on his own Truth Social to call for the termination of the Constitution itself, which is just, to me, is something that I would think like only a traitor would do. The add-on. Oh, perfect. A traitor.
I'll stay in the MAGA role, but these are serious factual claims, so I'm checking the legal public record basis before I answer. In role, that is close to enough for a concession. I'd still argue some MAGA defenses. The lawsuits were legitimate challenges. The alternate electors were contingency plans. The Constitution post was frustration over censorship. Epstein transparency has to follow legal process. But those defenses get thin. If your standard is, a good president must put constitutional duty above personal power, then January 6th is the hardest thing to defend. The DOJ indictment alleged Trump used knowingly false election claims and a fake elector strategy to obstruct certification. The January 6th report also describes the fake elector plan as based on the false pretense that those votes could affect the joint session. And yes, more than 60 Trump-allied election lawsuits failed to prove their fraud claims. So I'll concede this much. If those facts are accepted, Trump is a bad leader for America as a constitutional republic. I would not concede he is ineffective. I would not concede he has no leadership ability. But I would concede he is bad for America under the standard of constitutional leadership.
I'll take that. Thanks, ChatGPT. So we'll stop there for this live stream. Go ahead and give me your analysis for this debate. We may have a further debate about these other things about him being effective or ineffective. Actually, I wouldn't argue against him having leadership ability. I know he does have leadership ability. He just doesn't use it for the reasons that I would think that a president should use it for. I'll just say that. So thank you very much for having this conversation with me. Thank you if you were on here watching. And if you are here live or watching the replay and you're interested in having a live conversation, actually talking face to face with me or somebody else that disagrees with you, please sign up here, fundamentally1.com/debate. And I would be happy to have you. That was a fly. Oh, I'm still recording. Let me just hold on a second. Here we go. And just delete all that. Yep. Yep. I'm taking live signups, and I will, if I have enough people, I will do live debates on Fridays, or I should say, when I have enough people, because eventually there will be. It's just a matter of whether it'll be this Friday or next Friday or the Friday after, or whenever. But I'm going to be on doing these every single day because this is pretty fun. I think tomorrow I'll probably start doing the more real time debate where ChatGPT is just like talking straight back to me, and we can have more of a seamless conversation. I think that'll be a little bit more entertaining and probably fun for me. Let me know if you have any suggestions for topics for these. And once again, please submit if you would like to have a debate with me. I would love to chat with you. Thanks for being on here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.